on 52 years of real estate, and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today, I want to talk about leveraging debt to scale a real estate portfolio, and is it worth it? The quick answer is it depends on your situation. If you are getting into real estate, you're trying to scale for the first time, you have to leverage and manage real estate debt in order to scale. So, what does this mean? This means that I have to load money down. That means that I have to build up equity and then do cash out refinance or the BRRRR method to pull out the equity that I have to buy more real estate. This means that I have to do creative financing. This means that I might have to get private money lenders. This means that I might have to get lines of credits against my stock portfolio, against my whole life insurance, against myself personally, and against my business LLC. So this is how I scaled to 90 units without partners while working full time, without raising any capital. Is I leveraged to the hill, right? So let me give an example based on my story. So for me, I basically started off house hacking. I put 10% down on a house in the Bay Area, and I bought it for $800,000. So that's $80,000 down. And fast forward to today, so I bought this in 2017. Fast forward to 2025, it's worth $1.4 million. So I put $8,000 down as an initial investment, and now it's worth $600,000 more than when I bought it for um, today. So I made an $8,000 down payment investment and made $600,000 return on my money. So that's a huge return, right? That's a I can't even do the math. That's like a 7 to 8x return on my money. And that's not including principal pay down. That's not including the depreciation for tax write offs. And that's not including other benefits of real estate, right? So that property doesn't really cash flow. So I don't get the cash flow from that one. So I put $8,000 down and I made $600,000 of appreciation equity. So that's what I mean by leverage in the beginning. So I leveraged a lot. I also bought another house hack property, 10% down. Once again, $1.1 million. I put 10% down, which was 110K. I rented out the rooms and collected rental income, lowered my living expense. And fast forward to today, it's probably worth $1.5 million. So I put $100,000 down and I've made about $400,000. So it's a 4x return on my money, right? And yes, I could chalk this up to luck, right? I who would have known buying in 2017 and 19 when interest rates were low, like 3%, to 4% on average was a good time to buy. I didn't think it was a good time to buy back then. Everyone was telling me it was going to crash. Everyone was going to tell me that don't buy now, just wait. But I took action, and hindsight's 2020. So I look back today, and yeah, in retrospect, it was a good deal. It was a good buy. But in the moment, did it feel like a good buy? It didn't, because I just bought it on Redfin, on the MLS, on market. But once again, I took action and I leveraged. Right, I put 10% down, and appreciate over time during this window. So, obviously in the beginning, when you put 10% down, that means you have 90% debt, 10% equity. But every year that I've owned the properties, they appreciated by about $80,000 to $100,000 on average per year in California, Bay Area, California specifically, right? A lot of tech jobs there. And, who would have known COVID would have happened and interest rates would have dropped to, below 3%. And I took advantage. I did refinances. Specifically, I did a cash out refinance. And I pulled out a lot of my equity that I built up, right? And like I said, chalk it up to luck. I built up a lot of equity in single family homes because I had no control over the market, right? With single family homes, if your neighbor's house sells for $1.5 million and your house is right next door, it's the same thing, same square footage, same finishes. Yours will sell for $1.5 million. And it doesn't matter if your rental income is $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month because the value is based purely on the sales comps and the square footage and the furnishings. That's it. So because of that, I built up a lot of equity. I did a huge cash out refinance. I stripped a lot of my equity. So once again, I'm leveraging. So cash out refinance is a form of leverage. Stripped out a lot of equity, and I used that to go buy my apartment complex, my 26 unit apartment complex, my mobile home park, my 20 unit apartment complex. So because I put 10% down for my house hacks and they appreciated over 4 to 5 years, I did a huge cash out refinance once again, pulled out the equity. Now those single family homes are cash flow negative, which is the downside, right? I'm negative 2,000 bucks a month on my single family home portfolio, which, it's, you can't leave your W-2 job if you're negative cash flow. But at the time, my mindset was, well, I'll take this money. Yes, I'm cash flow negative over here, but I'm going to go buy an apartment, two apartment complexes, a mobile home park, and the cash flow from those will cover my negative cash flow from my single family homes. And it does happen today, right? Like my 26 unit at cash flow is about 8,000 bucks a month, which more than covers the negative cash flow of my single family home real estate portfolio. So, um, that's how I basically scaled, right? But I don't advise to go too negative. And obviously, because I had a high income W 2 and because I had a good debt to income ratio and I have a good credit score, I was able to do that, right? And maybe my real estate mortgage broker pulled some strings because I don't know how he allowed me to pull out $1 million tax free on my properties, but he did. And I locked in a 3.125% interest rate during COVID. And I used that money to go buy my 26 unit. So I leveraged again, right? I pulled out a bunch of money and I bought my 26 unit with 25% down for 500,000. I self-funded my renovation, which ended up being $300,000. So I bought it for 500,000. I put in $300,000 worth of renovation. So I'm all in for $800,000. It appraised at $800,000 day one. And I was able to raise the rents from an average of $350 to $700, which was a little bit below market rent. Market rent was around $750. Yes, I'm going to hear the comments, you're an evil landlord. How dare you double the rents? But I renovate all the units. New LVP flooring, new kitchen, new bathroom, new paint, remove popcorn ceiling, new countertops, all the above, right? I made it nice, new, and clean. And I basically was able to double my net operating income. And when I double my net operating income, assuming your cap rate stays the same, so I doubled the value of my apartment complex. So now it's worth about 1.5 to 1.6 million dollars. And actually today, I talked to an agency debt mortgage broker to get quotes on doing a cash out refinance on this 26 unit apartment complex. And so he asked me for my T12, which is the profit and loss statement for the past year. He asked for a recent rent roll. And on the rent roll, he can see that I have 24 out of 26 units rented out. I average about $16,000 a month in gross rental income. And then for my T12, he's looking to see, okay, what are your expenses? And are the expenses a one-time expense or is it a permanent expense of the property? So for me, I spent $50,000 over the past year renovating 5 units. So that's considered a one-time expense. So he wrote that off as it's a one-time expense, so it doesn't affect the NOI. So if you were to look at my T12, including all expenses, I was at a $50,000 NOI. But because he was able to cross out the $50,000 one-time renovation expense, that increased my NOI to $100,000. And he assumed an 8 cap, roughly, I think. And he had the evaluation of this property at around $1.5 million. And he's allowing me to pull out about $1.2 million as a cash out refinance tax free because I'm pulling out another loan, right? So, with that $1.2 million, if I decide to do a huge cash out refinance, what would happen to that $1.2 million? Well, first of all, I have a $400,000 loan, so I'd pay that off first. So I have $800,000 left over tax free. Well, how much did I put into the deal? I put $300,000 for renovation and another $100,000 for my down payment. So I had $800,000 tax free after paying off my loan. I then put $400,000 between renovation and down payment into the deal. So I put out another $400,000 on top tax free. But I'm leveraging this deal, right? I'm leveraging again. So what I was trying to do was I wanted to do a cash out refinance on my 26 unit, which is worth $1.5 million. I'm doing 70% loan to value. I was quoted 6.25% interest rates, which surprised me. That was a little bit lower than I expected. It's amortized over 30 years. It has a 5-year balloon or a 10-year balloon, but there's a huge prepayment penalty so that I have to hold the loan for the life of the loan. So if I have a 10-year loan term, I have a huge prepayment penalty up to 9.5 years. And it's called a yield maintenance prepayment penalty. So what that means is that I'm just making up numbers. Let's say my purchase price is $2.5 million. I'm putting 25% down. Whatever's left over is my loan through the life of the loan for 10 years. I'm just making it up. They're going to say, we're going to get $1 million in interest from you over the life of the loan. After year one, I decide to sell or cash out refinance my property. And let's say I only paid $100,000 in interest. Well, they're going to charge me a $900,000 prepayment penalty. So it's the difference between what they wanted, what they were expecting to get, which is 1 million, minus what I paid, which is 100,000. Whatever is left over is 900,000. So that's a huge prepayment penalty. So if you take this prepayment penalty, usually it means that you're going to hold this for at least 5 to 10 years, right? For at least 5 to 10 years. And from there, if I decide to sell, if I decide to cash out refinance, I might pay this huge penalty. So yes, it's great for a lower interest rate, but you lose flexibility. So if I want a more flexible prepayment penalty, my interest rate is going to be higher, right? It's going to be higher than 6.25. It's probably going to be closer to 7, right? So that's why. So don't let the interest rate trick you, right? Look at everything on the loan terms, and I will do a deeper dive in that. And I do see your questions, but let me finish this thought, right? So like I said, I leveraged, right? So I could leverage my 26 unit, do a huge cash out refinance, pull out $800,000 and use that to go buy a 50 unit apartment complex in Oklahoma as well. There you go. I would have doubled my portfolio from 52 units up to 50 units if I want to leverage. If I want to lower my loan to value over my whole portfolio. Right now, I sit at about 50%. So I have about 50% debt, 50% equity, right? So roughly it's about $5 million in debt, $5 million in equity. But if I were to do this cash out refinance on my 26 unit, I'd get more debt and use that money to go buy a $2.5 million 50 unit apartment complex and have more debt on that as well. So at that point, I might be 25% equity and 75% debt, right? So leveraging debt to scale could be a good thing, right? It's how I scaled, how I got started, right? But this is now the new phase of my life is, okay, I hit a certain net worth goal. I'm worth 6 million plus. I have a video posted today talking about all my failures to $6 million plus, right? And then by all objective means, I can retire, right? I don't need to work my W-2 job anymore. I can sell some assets, take some debt off the table. So now I'm reassessing, do I want to leverage right now, right? I'm getting married soon, probably kids in the next year or two, kid number 2 years after that, right? So a lot of life milestones are hitting me, right? I'm 34, turning almost 35, right? So does it make sense for me to leverage? And if my stance is I don't mind working, then yes, I can leverage, right? I could do a cash out refinance on my 26 unit, pull out $800,000 tax free after paying off my loan, use that as a down payment to go buy a $2.5 million apartment complex. I could double my portfolio to 102 units, but that would not improve my lifestyle. That would not improve my lifestyle at all, right? If I'm investing to get to 100 units, that's what it is. But I know if I buy another 50 unit or double my portfolio, I will not be happier, right? I'll still be working at W-2 because I need that money coming in, right? To sustain for any CapEx, to sustain for any unforeseen circumstances, and to have income coming in. So if I want to leverage at this point, I'm taking on more risk, right? Because maybe the 50 unit doesn't go well. I could lose money on the deal, right? If it's not managed well, there's risk of any investment. So do I want to take that risk, right? Back when I was started in 2017, I could have gone bankrupt, lost everything, right? And just still have a 6-figure pharmacist salary. But today, fast forward today, 2025, I have something to lose, right? I'm worth, 5 million, 6 million plus. And if I were to go bankrupt, I'd start back at zero. I don't want to start at zero. So at this phase, I want to take some chips off the table. So maybe I don't want to leverage as much, right? So leveraging debt is a phase of my life when I want to scale to, 50 units and build up my net worth. Now that I built up a net worth, now I wanted to leverage my money that I made to make my lifestyle easier. So what does that look like? Maybe I sell a single family home that has $800,000 of equity. I could use that to pay off my primary residence where I'm sitting in right now, right behind me, and I had no more mortgage. That would save me $5,500 a month. Could I quit my job at that point? Probably, right? You lowered your expense by $5,500 a month, and I'm still getting in $8,000 a month in cash flow from my real estate portfolio because I can sell a high equity single family home in Livermore, which breaks even, believe it or not, right? It has a bunch of equity in there, but it breaks even. That would improve my lifestyle because at that point I could take an easier job. I could be part time. I could work 1 to 2 days a week, or my future wife could, work part time or 1 to 2 days a week, or retire completely, right? As we plan for kids. So like that would make my lifestyle better. And like you said, it's comforting that you don't want to lose your nest egg, right? Like you put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of stress, a lot of headache into building my net worth, building my real estate portfolio. You don't want to lose it. So that's what I mean by taking some chips off the table, right? And that's the phase I'm hitting, and it's messing with me because I was always the guy. You talk to me past like 4 years, scale, 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 leverage, leverage, leverage. Easier to say that when interest rates were 3%. Now the interest rates are like 7%, let's just call it. It's a little bit harder, right? To get me to be like, wow, like I want to leverage. Unless you get creative financing, unless you take over loan subject to, that's a different can of worms. But like I said, like I never thought I'd be that guy to be like, huh, maybe I should take some chips off the table. Because if you asked me 4 years ago, I would in a heartbeat do a cash out refinance, pull out the money, and go buy another 50 units. But today I'm like pausing. I'm like, huh, do I really want to do this? Is it going to make me happier? So I'm optimizing for like lifestyle, and that's the whole reason why I did real estate. Is I just want to not work my W-2. I want to have income. I want to be able to travel. Don't care to have yachts and fancy cars and super nice clothes. It's just really to live life on my terms. That's really what it is, right? So I lost that on my path to scale. So and it makes sense though, because when you're in the scale mode, like you're so focused on like getting deals and hitting your financial freedom number. Like I was, like my goal 5 years ago was retire at 35 with $20,000 a month in positive cash flow, and I failed that. I'm turning 35 end of this month, and I didn't hit that. Right, I best make $10,000 a month in cash flow, so I failed my goal. Right, but I built up still a large net worth, and but I can still like retire. Right, so I was so goal oriented, and that's why I share that, because I imagine those of you who watch my channel want to buy multifamily real estate and want to scale, but like you said, once you hit a certain point, reassess. So what got me from 0 to 6 million will not make me any happier if I were to go to 6 to 12 million. I already know if I go from 6 to 12 million, I'm not gonna be any happier. Yes, I can maybe upgrade my house a little bit, but like, having a bigger house has headache too. You have to clean it. It's a bigger house to clean, more bathrooms to clean, right? Like you see that joke where like people own like mansions where they own like 9 bedrooms and like 10 baths and they just live there themselves. I'm like, what's the point, right? You have to hire a maid to clean a bigger house for bathrooms you'll never use. So that's what I mean. So in the beginning, when you're scaling, leverage debt by all means. Learn to leverage debt. But once you hit your goal, once you hit your enough, once you hit your net worth goal, your cash flow goal, whatever that looks like, take some chips off the table because now I have something to lose, right? Like I always need a place to live, right? I live in Los Angeles, expensive here. Um, I pay what $7,500 a month to live in this house. 5,500 is the mortgage. 2,000 is property tax, insurance, HOA, utilities. Even if I paid off my mortgage, I'd still pay $2,000 a month. But I cash flow $8,000 a month from my real estate portfolio, so it covers my living expense, right? So that's a pretty comfortable margin um, there. So in my phase, which is I call it the harvester phase, this is when I can enjoy my cash flow. This is when I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. This is when I can enjoy my lifestyle because it's been a hell of a ride, right? Like 2023, you watch my videos, I was depressed. I was worth 5 million plus, owned 690 units of real estate, and I was depressed. You couldn't even get me to go outside because I was so stressed out from managing my 26 unit, managing my mobile home park, sold that for a loss, managing my 20 unit, right? I burned myself out. So 2024, I just spent literally trying to recover from my burnout from 2023. In 2025, now I'm like assessing, okay, I want to optimize more towards lifestyle, like more towards my happiness, right? That's the whole point of real estate, right? I don't, it sounds cool to say I own 1,000 units of real estate, but anyone that owns 1,000 units of real estate, they're syndicators, and they might own 2% of 1,000 or 2% of a billion assets under management. But that's not my goal. That's not my objective. So, you know, how I leverage debt to get to 52 units isn't how I should go moving forward if I want to optimize for lifestyle, if I want to optimize for peace of mind, if I want to optimize for early retirement, if I want to optimize for, uh, sleeping well at night, right? You can't put a price on that. And it's a bad ROI. Like, I get it. If I were to sell one of my properties, pay off this primary residence, I'd pay off my 6.5% interest rate, which is actually pretty good. But I could obviously 1031 exchange that and go buy another apartment, So it's really, what is the goal? What's the objective? Um, so leverage is a double-edged sword, right? It works in the beginning when you're scaling without partners. By all means, leverage. But once you hit a point where, like right now, like I said, I'm 50% debt versus equity right now. That's a comfortable place to be, and that's a sign of a mature real estate portfolio. I've been owning real estate since 2017, which is what, 8 years. It flew by, right? But if I keep on owning this portfolio longer and longer, and let's say I were to sell a property, I would take the $800,000 of equity, I would lose $600,000 in debt, use that $800,000 to pay off this property, and wipe out another $800,000 of debt. So I just took off $1.5 million of debt off the table. So maybe now my equity would be 5 million, but my debt might be 3.5. So my debt to equity ratio is even smaller. So it's more conservative, right? So like because of this, like once I hit this milestone, I get why like the Dave Ramseys don't want debt because he's worth a billion. He doesn't. Why take the risk, right? You don't want to lose. Once you hit a certain net worth, it's all about preservation. You don't want to lose your nest egg. So like, I never thought I would say this, but like it's okay to put 30% down on a deal if it cash flows, right? Because you don't want to lose the deal, right? Why put 10% down to be negative cash flow? What, why? Like at my face, right? I'd rather put 30% down. Yes, I can't buy as many, but I'd rather buy one good deal that I can hold on for the rest of my life versus buy one bad deal or three bad deals with more leverage that are negative cash flow. And then you're forced to sell. So it's a different game, right? Like the scale game was different compared to the harvesting game, right? The building game is different than the preservation game. So just know what game you're in. And it took me, to be honest, 2 years of pausing to realize what game I'm trying to go to now. So, I get it. It's challenging in that way. So, that's really the journey of leverage, right? And back then, when I was house hacking, right, I put 10% down, I was house hacking. I was renting out rooms in my house. I was living in the master bedroom and I had three tenants that paid me $1,000 each. It was inconvenient as hell, right? It was really inconvenient that I had to like see them in the kitchen. They wouldn't clean their bathroom. I did all the sacrifice. But now today, I don't want a house hack, right? I don't want someone living in my house because I just want the space, the privacy, to focus on myself and to focus on relaxing and to do these live streams, for example. So that was my whole goal. That was my whole objective. So it was a phase, but now I'm not willing to do that. Would I be open to living in a duplex and maybe living on one side and renting out the other side? Yes, because I would have privacy, right? Or a fourplex, but it's hard to buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex in California. So yeah, just wanted to share my journey as I transition from the scaling phase of financial freedom to the harvesting phase of financial freedom, where I get to really enjoy all the hard work I've done to make my lifestyle easy. Because I've always taken the harder way in life, right? I've done all the inconvenient stuff. I put 10% down. I house hack. I cleaned up after tenants. I worked full time. I was managing renovations on a 26 unit. I was managing renovations on a mobile home park. I was managing renovations on a 20 unit. I sold my mobile home park for a loss because I had a bad property manager, right? So I went through all this sacrifice to get here, and now like enjoy it. Like it's, what's the point, right? Like life could be short, and I work in healthcare, so I see people pass away every day, unfortunately. So I'm just like, it's kind of eye opening when you think of that. So enjoy there. And like I said, if you guys are watching, please Feel free to drop questions. Love to answer the questions so I don't, ramble on about myself. So first question I see from Jamie or Jaime. Hey, I love your videos. Thank you. Also in Cali, what bank do you recommend for a home loan and what do you advise against? So for me, when I bought a lot of my primary residence, I used US Bank because I had a great referral from my aunt for US Bank. And they offered great jumbo loans, specifically in the Bay Area, where you could put 10% down and pay no PMI. So typically, if you put less than 20% down on a primary residence, you'll pay PMI. But even if you pay PMI, it's like what, 100 to 200 bucks a month. Like that's totally worth it, right? Like I'll give an example. I put, let's just say for my first house, I bought it for $800,000. I put 10% down, right? That's going to be $80,000. Let's just say I want 20% down. That's going to be $160,000. It's going to take me another year to save up another $80,000. So in that year, what happened? Maybe now the price of that property went up by $100,000 to 900K. So now I have to put $180,000 down versus 160, and the price went up. So if the price goes up, property tax goes up, right? So that opportunity cost, like would I have paid 200 bucks a month to get this deal today versus wait a year to put 20% down just to avoid PMI? I would, right? Because now you just missed out on $100,000 of appreciation. Would you pay 200 bucks a month to get $100,000 appreciation? I think anyone would, right? So for me, I just use US Bank, but the problem of US Bank and any commercial bank is that you can only do 2 loans with them and then you maxed out, right? So I did 2 loans of US Bank, I maxed out. I did a loan with Loan Depot, maxed out. I did a loan with I think Shell Point. So you just have to like talk to multiple lenders. So there's not any good or bad lenders for single family homes, to be honest. It's just really who's willing to work with you. And remember, when you're buying single family homes, they care about your debt to income ratio. Do you have a car loan? Do you have a student loan? Do you have credit card debt? Do you have a personal loan? What's your income? What's your credit score? They look at that stuff. But once you get more advanced and you go to commercial real estate and start buying multifamily, which is what I teach, right? Making multifamily money. Um, they don't care about your credit score as much. They don't care about your debt to income ratio. They don't care about your W-2 job. They care about how much income does a property generate and is your net worth enough to cover the loan. So if you want to buy a $2.5 million apartment complex and your loan is going to be, let's just call it 1.5 million, your net worth better be $1.5 million at least, right? And they want to see some liquidity. So that's why when you buy commercial real estate, they want something called a personal financial statement, which is just basically your net worth calculator. I track my net worth on empower.com. So typically I have a template. You can Google it, personal financial statement template, and they just ask you, okay, what's your income? What's your social? What's your credit score? How much income do you make from your W-2 job or your 1099? What real estate do you own? How much is it worth today? What's your debt on that property? What are your expenses? What are your rents? What's your liabilities? Do you own universal life insurance? Do you own index funds? What's your liquidity? And they're going to track your assets minus your liabilities to calculate your net worth. And they want to see that net worth to be higher than the loan amount that they're lending you on for safety, right? Because if something were to happen, they know the net worth to cover this deal. So that's one thing they'll ask for. Another thing they'll ask for is they want to look at the T12 statement, which is the profit and loss statement of your apartment complex. So what does that mean? That means how much income do you get in a year? What's your expense in a year? And in the expenses, what's a one-time expense, which can be carved out, or what's a permanent expense, which is factored in. And they want to see your net operating income. That's what they're looking at. That's the income minus the expense, and then carving out some expenses here and there, right? Based if they're one time. Like let's say you have a one-time plumbing issue, that's considered a one-time expense. So you can carve that out, right? And then from there, you get your NOI, and that NOI has to be at least 25% higher than your monthly debt payment for your monthly loan. So I'll make it a simple example. Let's just say my monthly loan payment is $1,000 a month. They want to make sure your net operating income on a monthly basis is at least 25% higher. That's called a debt service coverage ratio of greater than 1.25. So you take 1,000, times it by 1.25. Your NOI monthly better be at least $1,250 minimum to suffice the lender for commercial, right? So that's another unique thing. So your DSCSR is greater than 1.25. Your net worth has to be higher than the loan amount. You need a personal financial statement. And then number 4 is they're going to ask you, what's your real estate resume? It's like applying for a job, right? What experience do you have of multifamily real estate? How many multifamily deals have you purchased in the past in your career, in your investing career? They don't care if you own 5 single family homes, 10 single family homes, 50 single family homes. It's a different business model. They want to see you owning and operating apartments. So for me, my resume would be I sold a mobile home park, full cycle for a loss. Would I include that? Probably not in my resume, right? I bought a 26 unit apartment complex for $500,000. I put in $300,000 of renovation. It's now worth $1.6 million. I bought a 20 unit apartment complex for $350,000. I put in $150K to fix it up. So I'm all in for $500,000. Now it's worth $800,000. That's my real estate resume. But now the question comes, well, how can I buy my first multifamily deal without a resume? And that's the hard question, right? It's like, how do I get a job as an astronaut if I don't have any experience as an astronaut? It's a catch-22. So literally, how I bypassed that, and this is my experience, is I got such a good deal that the lender overlooked the fact that I had no experience. Once again, I bought such a good deal that the lender overlooked the fact that I had no experience. So how did I find this good deal? If you follow my channel, if you're in my mentorship, and I do direct mail, right? I send out direct mail every single month. PropStream for my leads. I use Yellow Letters Complete for my direct mail campaign. That's the whole basis of my mentorship is direct mail. So if you want to buy multifamily real estate off market using direct mail, my mentorship program is the perfect one for you, right? So check out the links down below. Anyways, I use direct mail because I want to go straight to the owner. Because the moment a real estate agent or broker touches the deal, they're going to upcharge the deal. Because the higher they sell the price, the higher they sell the multifamily, the bigger their commission is. If you're 3% commission, you'd rather sell it for 2 million versus 1 million because 3% of 2 million is a lot more than 3% of 1 million. It's double, right? So for me, that's why I go off market. So I got it under contract for $500,000. It appraised for $800,000 day one. What risk is there for the lender? I bought a deal so well that they have $300,000 equity baked in the deal. I'm giving them a down payment of 25%. I have a net worth to cover the loan. So worst case, if I fail the deal, I get foreclosed on, they get my down payment, they get all my interest payments that I paid them, and they can sell this asset at a profit. So they're willing to take that risk on me, right? But let's just say, hey, Steven, I can't find a deal that's that great. Well, on top of that, like I could back up my plan. So they're going to ask you, what's your vision for this property? And then once you start talking their lingo, right? I say, okay, hey, average rents on this property is $350. What the current owner hasn't raised rents. I talked to my property manager who's been doing this for 20 years. They think after doing $1,000 of renovation or $10,000 of renovation, excuse me. And what's the renovation include? New flooring, LVP flooring. It's going to be removed popcorn ceiling, new kitchen countertops, new kitchen cabinets, new bathroom, new light fixtures. Everything's new, new paint. Everything's new, right? It's going to be a modern apartment. It's going to cost me $10,000. I can raise the rents up to $700 when market rent is $750. So I'm going to go a little bit below market to be conservative because it's an older apartment overall, even though the insides are renovated. Let's be conservative. So I can essentially double my rents from $350 to $700 after renovation. And this is my new pro forma net operating income, which is going to be double. So now I think it's going to be worth $1.6 million. So you share that plan, and then, they can, the loan officer will share it to the underwriter, and you really just have to convince the underwriter. So I will say, just because a bank is willing to lend you on a deal doesn't mean it's a good deal, right? But the lender is the big brother that's looking over your back to double check your deal. So that's what I mean. Like, you really have to trust your numbers, right? You really, really have to trust your numbers. And I leverage the fact that I was part of a mentorship, right? Like I said, hey, I know I'm new. I got a good deal, but I have a mentor that's helping me analyze this deal, and this mentor has X amount of experience in multifamily. So, that's why I'm obviously biased, but yeah, like, there's mentorship. But even without the mentorship, you can learn a lot for free on YouTube, on my channel specifically. And As long as you know the lingo, you can talk to the lender and get the deal, right? Because remember, the lender is putting most of the money in the deal. So keep that in mind. They're putting in most of the money in the deal. So appease your lender, right? So just know the basic lingo. Can you talk the terms? ARV, performa, NOI, value add, right? This is my strategy. I want to refinance this, and this is what I think it's gonna be worth. So you can do that lingo, and then you buy the deal. So that's really how it is. So that's how I bypassed the fact that I had no experience. Is I bought such a good deal, and that I knew the lingo, right? It's not hard to learn this lingo. So, and obviously I had help with a mentor who was overlooking the deal and helping me underwrite it, and it was for a great property manager who helped me really manage his asset. So really, when you get your commercial real estate terms, you have to look at, is it, so this is a difference. So with commercial real estate loans, you have to put 25% down. There's a balloon payment in 10 years at most. So you have a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year. And based on which one you pick, if you pick a 10-year balloon, your insurance can be a little bit, I think, higher versus if you do a 3-year term, your insurance can be lower. Also, you have to pay attention, is it amortized over 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years? If your property is older, it might be amortized over 20 years, which means your monthly payment is higher, right? So if you're amortized, if you have $1 million loan divided by over 20 years versus 25-year versus 30-year, your 20-year will always be higher, right? Your 20-year will always be higher versus 30 years. So you have to know what the terms are, right? And the number two is there a prepayment penalty? And there's two types of prepayment penalties. There's a step down, which means year one, 5% prepayment penalty. What does that mean? If your loan's $1 million and you, let's say, were to sell this property after 1 year and your prepayment penalty is 5%, then you're going to pay $50,000 prepayment penalty. The next year it drops down to 4%. The year after that, 3%. After that, 2%. After that, 1%. So you have to know where you are relative to your prepayment penalty. So what's your strategy? Are you going to just fix it up and do a cash out refinance? In that case, maybe you want a step down prepayment penalty. But with this more flexible prepayment penalty, what's the cost? The cost is going to be a higher interest rate. There's another type of prepayment penalty. It's called a yield maintenance. It's YM for short, and it's confusing as heck. But let me try my best to explain this. So yield maintenance is, let's just say I have a 10-year balloon. The yield maintenance is going to be 9.5 yield maintenance. So I have 9.5 years that I had to hold this loan to pay no prepayment penalty. So let's just say for the life of the loan for 9.5 years, they're going to add all the interest payments from the life of the loan for 9.5 years. And I'll just make it up for simplicity. Let's say it's $500,000 is what the bank expects to get over 9.5 years of interest payments. And let's just say after year one, you decide to sell your property. And let's just say you only paid $100,000 of interest payments, but they're expecting $500,000 of interest payments. So what's your prepayment penalty? It's going to be $400,000. It's going to be the $500,000 they expected minus what you paid, which is $100,000, leaving you with a $400,000 prepayment penalty. So it's a very restrictive prepayment penalty. So if you take this yield maintenance prepayment penalty, what's your interest rate going to be? It's going to be lower, right? Because they're guaranteed money, right? So there's risk associated. Like, well, if you want to sell, well, you're going to pay a hefty prepayment penalty. So really know your loan terms, right? So when they're giving you like a juicy interest rate, so I just got quoted for my 26 unit apartment complex cash out refinance. These are the terms I was just quoted this morning, right? This is fresh off the press. They valued it at $1.5 million. They're allowing me to do a 70% cash out refinance, so I can pull out $1.2 million. And they quoted me 6.25% interest, which is better than I expected. It's going to be a 10-year balloon. It's going to be a 9.5-year yield maintenance prepayment penalty. So I have to hold this for the life of the loan. It's amortized over 30 years. So those are my loan terms, right? I have a great interest rate. I could pull out $1.2 million. I would pay off my $400,000 of debt. I have $800,000 that I can pull out tax-free. And remember, out of that $800,000, $100,000 was my down payment. $300,000 was my renovation cost. So I pulled out on top of that $400,000 tax-free of profit, right, from this deal of profit to go buy another apartment if I want to, right? So I was quoted that, and I would pull out this, $800,000, and I could use that as a down payment to go buy a 50 unit apartment complex for $2.5 million, right? With the same lender. So the same lender would do my cash out refinance and also finance my 50 unit that I'm buying. That's if I want to leverage, right? So I could easily, like today, I could literally just say, hey, I want to move forward with this. I'm going to offer 2.5 or $2.5 million for this 50 unit apartment complex. I do cash out refinance on my 26 unit, pull out $800,000 tax free because it's debt, use that as a down payment on my 50 unit. So now I'm getting like what, like, 1.6 million or $1.7 million loan on the other property. And I just increased my debt by $2.5 million total, right? So now my overall loan to equity is going to be higher. I'm going to have 25% equity and 75% debt. And right now I'm sitting at 50% equity and 50% debt. So I'm not quite comfortable leveraging a little bit more like that, but I could, right? I could go from 152 units to 102 units just like that, right? So really, like you said, I'm reevaluating, like, do I want to scale? Do I not want to scale? Like right now, I know if I bought a 50 unit, like I said, my quality of life would not improve. I wouldn't be happier. It'd probably make me more stressed at this point, right? So I want to take some chips off the table. It is the whole objective. So that's commercial lending, right? So that if you understand that, you know more than like probably 90% of multifamily real estate investors or beginners. Um, so I see another comment here from Corey. Hello from Canada. Oh, thank you. I didn't know I had international viewers. Enjoy your videos. I myself bought a house 3 years ago and rent out the 5 bedroom house. So you do the rent by the room model is very popular now, right? Very, very popular. You listen to all the podcasts now, like Bigger Pockets, Brendan Turner. Everyone's talking about rent by the room and assisted living. That's a new sexy topic. It used to be short-term rentals. Like 5 years ago, it was short-term rentals was the sexy topic. Then it became midterm rentals, and now it's rent by the room and assisted living. So for me, I did rent out by the room, but it comes at a cost, right? Like the tenants do not treat the house well. They treat it like a hotel. So if you do the rent by the room model, one cost you're going to factor in is you're going to get a maid to clean the house every single month. So bake that in. It might cost like $300 to clean the whole house, clean the bathroom, and you divide the cost amongst the 5 tenants. It's not too bad, right? It might be additional like, 70 bucks on top of that. So, it is possible, right? It is possible to rent by the room, but just know that bake in some maid cost and then bake in that people are going to be petty, like, oh, I didn't break that. This other tenant broke that. Oh, I'm not messy. This tenant's messy, right? People just point the finger at each other. So, if you're okay with that, do it. I personally don't think rent by the room is a scalable model unless you do student housing. So there's a model where you could buy like apartments nearby universities and rent by the room. But like you said, even that, I don't think it's worth it for me. So great question. Deepak, great information. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for supporting the channel. Jaime, how do you manage buying properties out of state while living in LA? Do you feel handicapped or dependent on others? Great question. Great question. Obviously, when I grew up, the mentality was buy in your backyard, right? That's what I was told. That's what you were probably told. Buy in your backyard, right? See your property in person. And I had that belief for the longest time. Like if most of my deals that I bought were nearby me in the Bay Area, and then I moved to LA, and then I still own those rentals in the Bay Area, so I manage them remotely myself. So it takes a certain comfort level, right, of investing out of state. And obviously, if you invest out of state, you're gonna get cheated, right? Like your chance of being cheated is gonna be increased because they know you're out of state investor. And my mobile home park I sold for a loss. I found out that my property manager was stealing from me, right? He was collecting rent under the table and saying that the tenants didn't pay rent because he knew I wasn't evicting tenants because it was COVID. He was taking extra money from renovation costs and using it for himself, right? Like he would literally, go to Home Depot, buy something, and then return it, get cash, and then boom, he was stealing from me. So when you invest out of state, bake in the fact that someone's going to steal from you. Bake in the fact that the contractor may upcharge you. Bake in the fact that there's just a cost to doing business out of state. So if you factor in those numbers, make sure you buy right out of state, right? So I had a mobile home park. I was probably cheated, like looking back, at least $30,000, $40,000. The property manager was upcharging the renovation. So he would say, oh, it cost $3,000 to fix his unit, this mobile home, but he maybe only cost him 2,000. And he pocketed the 1,000 difference, right? My offsite property manager is doing the same thing. They were charging like a 5% fee on top of it without even telling me, right? So for me, I have to trust but verify. But I have to look at my monthly P&L. Does it make sense? I got $16,000 in rental income. I had $8,000 in expenses. I had a $2,000 loan. So I should be taking home about $6,000 in my bank account, and I can run my bank statement and look at it. Am I $6,000 more than I was last year? And it should make sense. But could my property manager say, "Hey, this toilet broke. It's cost $200 to fix it," and not really fix it, or just pocket it, or make it a lie? That's part of the business. It could be, right? I'm probably am getting cheated right now. I don't even know, right? But I bake it in. I bake it in. So, but you have to trust but verify. So, like, I make sure my property managers know I'm a on top of it owner. They know that I touch base with them once a month via text or via phone call for like 10, 15 minutes quickly. If I text them and they don't respond timely, I will call them, right? And by timely, I mean within 24 to 48 hours, at least saying, "Hey, Steven, got your text. I'm busy, but can I talk to you at this time or tomorrow?" Right? As long as they communicate. So I'm very rigorous in my property management screening process for that reason, right? In my mentorship program, I have I think 10 questions that you ask a property manager. And even after you go through those 10 questions, they could pass, but they could lie, right? It's just like doing a job interview. Could you lie and bullshit for an hour? You probably could. But after that, I really track their performance. Like, did things make sense? Are they responding timely? And if they don't, I'll tell them, hey, like, you're not up to my standard. I said this up front. If you don't perform, then let me know. I have to move on to a different property management company. So for me, I don't feel handicapped. Actually, I like the fact that I can have a property manager because, like, right now, I self manage my single family homes in California. Like, I had a water heater break in my one of my properties in San Francisco, and like I spent like 3 hours coordinating like a water heater delivery, right? Like, that was like frustrating for me. Um, versus if I had a property manager, they just would take care of it and just tell me, "Hey, Steve, it's going to cost you like whatever, $1,500 to fix it. Is that okay?" I'm like, "That's fine." You just authorize it, and that's it. So that's why, there's pros and cons, right? There's definitely pros and cons. And if you want to scale, if you want to buy in a cheaper market, like, scaling a real estate portfolio in California, it's not scalable. Like, literally, my California real estate portfolio just breaks even, but I have so much appreciation in there. But appreciation doesn't pay the bills unless you sell it, unless you 1031 exchange it to go buy a cash flowing properties in Oklahoma, Alabama. So that's why I do both, right? I built up a lot of my net worth from appreciation from California, but I'm transferring that appreciation into a cash flow market like Oklahoma, like Alabama, so that I can get cash flow, so that I can potentially leave my W-2 job. That's the whole point, right? Or I could sell a property, pay the capital gains tax, pay depreciation recapture, and then, basically, um, just move on, right? Just have that lump sum of money, invest it in index funds, invest it in treasury bills or T bills, live off 5% of that, and I'm good, right? So I don't feel handicapped by that. It actually liberated me and helped me to scale my portfolio and to think, to not micromanage, right? Like I said, if you don't, if I cannot see my properties, like, yeah, I should be flying out to see my property, once every 2 years. If I buy another one in Oklahoma, I'll probably fly out there and check up on my 26 unit, my 20 unit, and the one I'm going to buy, because I want to trust but verify. And I'm going to show up and call my property manager and say, "Hey, I'm here. Like, are you guys free to show me their property, like, unannounced?" But yes, you are dependent on others, right? That's why I sold my mobile home park. I was so dependent on this bad property manager who was managing another bad property manager, and they controlled everything. I didn't like that control. So that's why I decided, like, I couldn't fire them to replace them with another property manager, because in mobile home parks, it's hard to find a replacement. So I was just like, well, forget it. I just want to sell the deal. And I took a loss. I took $100,000 loss, got a nice tax write off of my W-2 income that year, and got a nice refund from Uncle Sam. So, I had $100,000 loss. I'm at a 40% tax bracket. So I got $40,000 back from my W-2. So it cushioned my loss to be $60,000 instead. So that's really the mindset. And, I have a video, like I said, today, talking about my losses to a $6 million net worth. And I lost about probably $300,000, I would say, plus a year in my life, um, to build up a $6 million net worth. Would you make that trade? It's up to you, right? Like, would you willing to give up $300,000 a year of your life? A lot of grinding, a lot of stress over since 2017 to build up a $6 million net worth where you could, have an easier lifestyle. Is that worth the trade for you? If the answer is yes, then do it. If not, then it's okay, right? It's not for everybody. So great question there. Another question from Jaime. Why Oklahoma and Alabama and not other states that seem to be more on the rise? So yeah, I chose Oklahoma because I had a great property manager there, right? Plain and simple. I had a great property manager who could manage apartments. That's why I bought there. It's landlord friendly. I can evict the tenant in 14 days. Low property tax, and it's a steady Eddie market. When times are good, it doesn't skyrocket like Phoenix, Arizona, and Austin, Texas. When times are bad, it doesn't crash like Phoenix, Arizona, and Austin, Texas, right? Alabama, same thing. I could buy a new construction home for $250,000, brand new construction, get closing costs covered, and it would rent out for $1,900 to $2,000 a month. That's close to the 1% rule, and it's a new construction, so your capex is going to be very minimal. Plus, it's a new construction, so it's easy to rent out, right? Like that's why I like Alabama, right? It's yes, it's in a more rural area. Yes, there's a lot of building there, so you have to hold onto your properties long term, right? Like I bought a new construction in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, in 2021 for 260. If I try to sell it today, there's a bunch of new constructions near my property selling for 250. Why would you buy my old home in 2021 for 260 when you can buy a brand new construction like next door for like 250? So that's the downside of new construction and overbuilding. So if you buy new construction in an area like Austin, Texas, like Huntsville, Alabama, where they're building a lot, be prepared to hold that for at least 10 years. At least once the new building stops, then your property value will skyrocket, right? That's why like California or LA is so expensive because there's limited land. Like I bought a new construction here in LA. They're building a lot still, but the moment they stop building, my value of this townhome I'm in is going to skyrocket because there's no more land and land is limited. Versus in Huntsville, Alabama, there's a lot of land. They can still build for the next 10 years. So, be prepared to hold it long term and hopefully the rent covers it and hopefully you buy it right, right? Whether it's a down payment, a large enough down payment, good interest rate, good rental ratio. So for me, I just invest there because it's, I have a good property manager there. I know the area. I have a system there. I have a team there. So why not scale, right? Like I like the steady eddiness of Oklahoma. It's growing. It's affordable. You could rent a 1 bedroom for $550 a month. You can rent a 2 bedroom for $700 a month. Like you can literally work at Walmart and afford that rent. My HOA in California is already $600, which is the cost of rent. Let me say that once again. My HOA in California is $600, which is the cost of rent for my Oklahoma apartments, right? So like, it's just like that. It's really crazy in that aspect, right? So like, that's why I invest there. Like, had I had a great property manager in Arkansas, I'd invest in Arkansas, right? Like plain and simple, right? Like, don't keep it, don't overcomplicate it. Invest where you have an unfair advantage. My unfair advantage is Oklahoma, Alabama. I have a lot of students in my mentorship program. They own a bunch of rentals in Houston, Texas. They're buying apartments in Houston, Texas. They have an unfair advantage in Houston, Texas. Me personally, I don't want to deal with hurricanes and insurance. So I wouldn't buy there. I don't have an unfair advantage there, but I have an unfair advantage in Oklahoma City, right? I have a student who has an unfair advantage in, I think, another part, like San Antonio, Texas. So, like, yeah, buy there. Like, that's why I tell them, like, don't overcomplicate it. Where do you have an unfair advantage? And buy there. Find a good deal, right? So, that's really what it is. So, like, for me, obviously, I'm in LA, I'm in Los Angeles. So I could buy single family homes here, apartments here, but it's going to be expensive, right? Like, so it's not worth it for me. Like, you know, I bought my house here for almost $1 million and I can buy a 50 unit apartment complex for 2.5 million, right? Like the single family homes right behind me are selling for $2.5 million. Or I could buy a 50 unit apartment complex for $2.5 million in Oklahoma that grosses 36K a month, right? So like, it just really depends. And that's why I invest in Oklahoma. So like, I say do both. Like, yeah, I live in a high expensive market like California. I own rentals here, but I also own rentals so I own single families in California. I own single families in Huntsville, Alabama, and I own multifamily in Oklahoma because the value of multifamily is based on the income. The more income you get, the higher the value is. If you have less income, the value goes down. So you have to be a good operator. You have to be a good operator. Um, so that's why. Like I said, it's hard to leave California. I'm born and raised in California. Yeah, it's expensive as heck. If I moved out of California and sold a rental property, I could buy a house cash in Vegas, retire right now. I don't have to work. But it's hard. It's hard to leave California because the food's so great and the weather's nice and there's a lot of things to do. So I'm choosing to be here. But if I want to retire right now, I could just move out to Vegas and retire like right now. So it gives me that optionality, which is nice. So once again, let me know if any last minute questions here. It's approaching the hour mark. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for the attention. If you want to get one-on-one coaching and a mentorship for multifamily, check the link down below. Otherwise, please let me know what topics you want me to talk about. I've been talking a lot about financial freedom. I've been talking a lot about buying more apartments because that's kind of top of mind for me right now. Because I'm looking at financing, I'm looking at deals. I'm also like contemplating like, do I just want to retire early and like what moves I need to make in the next 4 to 5 years for me to retire early? Because my goal is I'm almost 35. I definitely want to be retired by before 40. By then, I'll probably have 2 kids. So I'm trying to like plan my path of retirement in the next 4 to 5 years. So that's why it's really fresh in mind. If you knows my content, it's talking a lot about that. But otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much.